Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The sun was hot above the scrapyard. Rusty metal parts lay everywhere. Broken ships, twisted engines, shattered wings, old machines from forgotten wars. It was quiet. Only the wind moved, whistling through piles of junk. Jackson wiped sweat from his forehead and looked up. Another normal day. He lived alone on this desert moon, a human mechanic far from Earth. No visitors, no wars, just repairs, metal, and silence. Then he saw it. Black smoke. Far away, near the cliffs, something was falling from the sky. Fast. A shape. Large. Dark. Burning. It crashed hard into the desert with a loud boom. Dust shot high into the air. The ground shook under his feet. Jackson stared. That wasn't a ship. It looked alive. He grabbed his scanner and hopped on his hoverbike. The wreck site was less than 2 miles away. As Jackson rode over the hill, he saw it clearly now. A massive creature, wings wide, scales torn, breathing heavy, lay on the sand. A dragon. Not a human one. Not from Earth myths. This one was alien. Skin shimmered like metal, eyes glowed with purple fire, and long horns curled like spirals. Her chest rose and fell slowly, blood leaking from her side. But that wasn't what made Jackson stop cold. She wasn't alone. On the ground beside her, curled and unmoving, was a tiny dragon hatchling, small, thin, and badly hurt. The big dragon saw him and let out a deep growl. Jackson froze. One wrong move, and she could burn him to ash. But the dragon didn't. Attack instead. She bowed her head low, and in a voice deep and broken, she spoke in old galactic tongue. Fix her, humanum. Please. Jackson slowly walked closer, hands raised. He scanned the hatchling. Its breathing was weak, bones cracked. Heart slowing. Whatever had attacked them, it meant to kill the baby. I'm a mechanic, Jackson said softly. Not a healer. The mother's eyes glowed brighter. You build life into dead machines. Do it again. Jackson hesitated. This wasn't like fixing an engine. But the hatchling gave a soft whimper, a sound so small, so full of pain it made his chest tighten. He dropped to his knees. I'll try. He worked fast. Using tools from his bike and scrap metal from nearby, Jackson cleaned the wounds and stabilized the hatchling's breathing. But her heart, it was failing. Too weak. Too slow. She wouldn't last an hour. Jackson looked at the mother. Her heart is breaking down. She needs a power source, something strong, something alive. The mother closed her eyes. Jackson stood up. I have an idea, but it's dangerous. He sped back to his scrapyard. Back in his workshop, he dug through the old crates until he found it, a damaged power core from an enemy war drone. It had energy, enough to spark a failing heart, but it wasn't made for living things. He had used parts like this to repair damaged robot arms, never on something breathing. He looked toward the desert. You said you build life into dead machines. He whispered. Let's see if that's true. When he returned, the sun was lower. The dragon mother still lay beside her child, tail wrapped around protectively. I can give her a second chance, Jackson said. But if I do this wrong, it could end her faster. The mother spoke only one word. Try. Jackson opened the hatchling's chest with gentle hands. Alien skin, soft bones. He had to be careful. He cut the drone core open, rewired its energy output, and connected it to the hatchling's failing heart. A small click, then silence. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then, her chest rose sharply. A tiny cough, a glow beneath her skin. The hatchling's eyes opened. She let out a weak chirp, and tiny sparks flew from her mouth. She was alive, but not the same. Now, inside her, was fire and machine. Jackson stepped back, stunned. The mother let out a deep sound, a mix of relief and pride. She lowered her head to Jackson and whispered, "You have done what no dragon or doctor could do." That night, under the stars, Jackson sat near his old workshop. Beside him, the small dragon hatchling curled up and fell asleep. He didn't know what she was now, but he knew one thing. Something incredible had just begun. The workshop had never felt so alive. Sparks flew from the ceiling, tools buzzed, and soft breathing came from the corner where the hatchling lay curled on a padded crate. Her body rose and fell in uneven rhythm, but she was alive, and that was a miracle. Jackson leaned over her carefully, checking the readings from the drone power core he had installed just hours ago. The little dragon's heart now glowed faint, blue beneath her scales, each beat releasing a pulse of gentle energy. He couldn't believe it had worked. He hadn't saved a life. He had created something new. The dragon mother watched from outside the workshop, too large to enter through the door. Her golden eyes followed his every move, glowing with a quiet fire. Jackson stepped outside to speak with her. "She's stable," he said. "But the core, it's not natural. It's fighting with her biology. Her body might reject it." The mother's deep voice replied, low and slow. "Then we must teach her to accept it, as she must accept herself." Jackson nodded. "I'll do everything I can." She tilted her head. "Why? You are not a healer, not one of us. You owed her nothing." Jackson looked back at the sleeping hatchling. "She reminded me of someone." Inside, the hatchling stirred. Her eyes opened, still, young, still unsure. She looked around, sniffed the air, then tried to stand. But her legs wobbled and gave out. Jackson rushed to her side. "Easy now." She looked at him, blinking slowly, confused. Then she tried to growl, but it came out as a soft chirp followed by a crackling sound like static. Her throat sparked. Not fire. Energy. Jackson frowned. "Your breath isn't normal anymore." He gently reached toward her jaw and opened it just slightly. A soft hum escaped like a humming engine. Tiny pulses of light flickered in her throat. "She's got a fusion core inside her now," he whispered. "She's not just dragon anymore." That evening, Jackson took his welding torch and reshaped a harness from soft scrap metal. He built braces for her legs to support her weak muscles. He wrapped her small tail in cooling gel to protect the power lines inside it. "She needs time to grow into her own body," he said to the mother. "Her fire may return, but it'll be different." The mother didn't respond for a long time. Then she said softly, "Once, we were pure flame. Now we must be more." The hatchling followed Jackson now, her steps slow but steady. She chirped when he worked and curled near his feet when he rested. He called her Nia. It wasn't a dragon name, but she liked it. One night he was working on her leg brace when she playfully knocked a wrench off the table. He chuckled. "You've got an attitude, don't you?" Nia let out a pulse of energy that bounced around the workshop. A few lights flickered, and Jackson raised an eyebrow. "All right. No more charging inside, okay?" The dragon mother from outside spoke. Softly, "She is learning. The core is fusing with her instincts. She will be different from us. Maybe better, but not all was peaceful." At the edge of the scrapyard, hidden in the shadows of a ruined freighter, a black drone's eye blinked red. It had seen the energy spark from Nia's breath. It had heard the hum of the war core beating inside her, and it had already sent a signal. That night, as the stars lit up above, Jackson stared at the sky. He had come to this moon to escape war, to fix machines, to live alone. Now, he was the only thing standing between a fragile hybrid hatchling and a galaxy that might not accept what she had become. The dragon mother lay nearby, her massive wings tucked in. She spoke without turning. "They will come, you know." "I figured," Jackson replied. "Will you run?" He shook his head. "No." She looked at him now. "Then you are more dragon than man." Inside the workshop, Nia slept peacefully. Her heart pulsed like a drum, half fire, half machine, and fully alive. It began with a spark, just a small flicker, barely a glow, leaking from the hatchling's nose while she slept. Jackson saw it as he worked late at his bench. The lights in the workshop dimmed for half a second. Tools buzzed for no reason. One of his screens blinked and then shut off. He turned toward Nia. The little dragon was snoring quietly, chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. But around her mouth, tiny bolts of blue light flashed now and then. The power core inside her was changing. Jackson knelt beside her and scanned her vitals. The energy inside her chest had doubled in strength, not unstable, evolving. She was no longer just surviving the core. She was becoming one with it. He whispered to himself, "She's adapting faster than I thought." But as he reached for her to scan her throat again, she woke, eyes wide and glowing faintly. She opened her mouth. Crack. A bolt of raw plasma shot out and hit the ceiling. Sparks flew. Smoke poured down. Jackson dropped to the ground, coughing. "Okay, so she can breathe again." Another chirp, and then another spark. The dragon mother flew down from her post above the scrapyard. Her massive wings sent waves of sand across the yard as she landed beside the workshop. Jackson waved her inside. She just fired her first breath since surgery. The mother stepped forward, watching her young. "She was born to breathe flame," she said. "But now she holds stormlight in her blood." "I gave her the drone core to keep her alive," Jackson said. "I didn't know it would change what she is." The mother lowered her head. "You gave her more than life. You gave her a future." That morning, Jackson tested Nia's new power in the open desert, far from the yard. He had her aim at a metal plate. "All right, little one, let's see what you've got," she chirped, tilted her head and opened her jaw. Nothing. Then, a pop, followed by a blast of glowing white-blue fire. It wasn't hot like normal flame. It was buzzing, flickering, like energy wrapped in wind. The plate glowed, then melted. Jackson blinked. "That is not dragon fire." The mother stood behind him, proud. "That is core fire. Rare, unstable, beautiful." Nia turned and looked at Jackson, eyes wide. She chirped twice as if asking, "Did I do good?" He smiled. "You did amazing." Back at the scrapyard, Jackson adjusted her leg braces again. The bursts of power were making her muscles twitch. "She's not just getting stronger," he said. "She's getting smarter." "She will need both," the mother replied, "because something is coming." Jackson stopped working. "You feel it too?" She nodded. "My enemies were not chasing only me. They wanted her. She's just a child. She's more than that now." That night, Jackson sat alone on the rooftop of his workshop looking at the stars. He held a small piece of the melted plate in his hand. Still warm, still humming. He had built engines, reprogrammed drones, even patched warfighters before. But never had he seen life and machine join. This way, this was new, and maybe too powerful for the galaxy to allow. He turned as he heard Nia climbing up behind him, her small claws clicking on the metal roof. She curled beside him and rested her head on his leg. He stroked the side of her face. "You're not just a dragon anymore," he said quietly. "You're a spark." She looked up at him, and for the first time he saw understanding in her eyes. Not animal instinct, real awareness. He didn't know whether to be proud or afraid. Suddenly, the sky lit up. Bright red flashes. Jackson stood quickly, pulling out his scope. 3 ships, not merchant vessels, not scouts. These were hunters. Fast, sharp. Built for one thing, capture and extraction. "They've found us," the mother said from below. Her wings unfolded slowly. Nia growled, low and shaky as lightning danced across her teeth. Jackson clenched his jaw. "Then it's time." The mother looked up at him. "What will you do?" He stepped down from the roof, eyes burning with purpose. "I'm going to protect what I built." In the shadows, Nia's heart pulsed. Part fire, part fusion. And for the first time since she was born, she was ready to fight. The hunters didn't come with horns or warnings. They came silent, like shadows cutting through the sky. 3 ships, all black. No flags, no identity, only purpose. From the roof of his workshop, Jackson watched their lights blink above the horizon. His hands tightened on his wrench. Beside him, Nia growled softly, blue sparks flickering around her jaws. The dragon, Mother stood behind them, wings spread, her armored body glowing faintly under the moonlight. "They will not land to speak," she said. "They do not care for talk, only power." Jackson nodded. "Then we give them none." Inside the scrapyard, Jackson activated the emergency barriers. Old war parts came to life. Crane arms lifted, drone turrets spun up, and defensive shields flickered across the workshop's roof. He had never expected to use them, but today, everything had changed. Nia trotted beside him, her steps more confident now. The metal braces on her legs clicked with every movement. Her eyes scanned the sky, alert. "She's learning fast," Jackson said. "She has no choice," her mother replied. "They will take her apart to understand her." Jackson froze. "They'll... what?" "They hunt those who don't fit their design," the mother said coldly. "They believe anything different is a threat." He looked at Nia, small, breathing, glowing with life and light, and felt something heavy rise in his chest. "She's a child," he whispered. "She's a miracle," the mother corrected. And miracles scare empires. A loud hum filled the air. The ships were descending now. Jackson ran to the old comms tower, wired into the scraps of a fallen dreadnought, and broadcast on all open channels. "This is Jackson Thorne, human mechanic, and civilian. You are entering my territory without permission. Leave now or be treated as hostile." No reply. The ships kept coming. Faster. Lower. The mother's body tensed. Her wings lifted. "If I leave now, I might draw them away," she said. "They don't yet know how much power she holds." "No," Jackson said. "You leave, she'll go after you, you know that." The mother looked at him. "You speak like her blood is your own." Jackson didn't blink. "Maybe it is." The first ship landed at the edge of the scrapyard. Its ramp opened, and out stepped a creature in black armor, face hidden, eyes glowing with artificial red light. It didn't speak. It pointed a finger toward Nia. Jackson stepped in front of her. Not happening. The figure raised a hand, and a high-pitched tone filled the air, sharp, focused, aimed at Nia. She yelped, staggered, her core flickering. Jackson rushed to her, shielding her with his own body. "Stop it!" The dragon mother roared and leapt into the air, blasting fire toward the attacker. But the fire bent mid-air and vanished into a shimmering shield. "They've come prepared," she growled. Jackson helped Nia up, heart pounding. "Then so are we." He led them to the back of the workshop, where a half-built hover tank lay hidden beneath tarps. It was a relic from a fallen empire, still unfinished. "Climb in," Jackson said. "I'll buy us time." The mother hesitated. "She won't go without you." "I'm not staying behind," he said, climbing into the cockpit. "I'm driving." As the enemy closed in, the hover tank roared to life. Jackson's fingers flew across the controls, connecting systems powered by both fusion cells and salvaged dragon-scale batteries. Nia sat beside him, tail coiled, eyes sharp. The mother flew, overhead, wings wide, breathing flames and buying time. Together they blasted through the scrapyard gates, straight into the night. But as they reached the canyon edge, an explosion lit up behind them. The workshop was gone. Jackson stared through the rear camera. They destroyed it. "It was only metal," the mother said, flying beside them. "But you are not." They stopped in a narrow cave deep in the cliffs. The ship couldn't follow them there. Jackson collapsed beside Nia, exhausted, covered in smoke and dust. "She saved me," he whispered. The mother landed beside them. "And now she must choose." Jackson frowned. "Choose?" The mother looked at her daughter. She has something no other dragon has ever held. Fusion fire. It is ancient, it is feared, she can run or rise. Jackson turned to Nia. She was staring out at the stars, then slowly she opened her mouth and released a breath. It wasn't fire. It was a beam of light and thunder, dancing like the sun itself. Jackson's jaw dropped. The cave walls glowed, and the mother bowed her head. My daughter has made her choice, she whispered. She will not hide. Outside, the enemies were regrouping. But something had changed. The hunted was no longer afraid. She had found her flame, and the human who believed in her. The sky was no longer quiet. It boiled. Dark clouds rolled over the desert moon as 4 more hunter ships arrived, their engines growling like hungry beasts. They didn't try to hide now. They had one target, the hatchling, and they would burn the whole scrapyard world to take her. From deep inside the canyon, Jackson stood beside the dragon mother and the hatchling, Nia, watching the sky crack with red lights. The hunters had brought full war gear this time, assault drones, scanning beams, even a gravity disruptor floating above the valley. Jackson clenched his jaw. They're bringing everything. The mother stared coldly at the horizon. Then they fear her more than we thought. Nia paced back and forth, her glowing heart core pulsing faster now. Sparks leaked from her claws. Every breath she took made the air buzz. She's unstable, Jackson said. She's not ready for a full battle. She doesn't need to be ready, the mother replied. She only needs to believe. Jackson worked quickly, pulling broken tech from the hover tank and wiring it to the canyon rocks. He built traps, pressure mines made from scrap, EMP nets, crafted from melted drone coils. He even mounted an old ion cannon on a ridge, powered by one of Nia's spare energy packs. I can slow them down, he told the mother, but not for long. Then we strike hard, fast, before they settle. Jackson looked at Nia. She'll be in the center of it all. She must, her mother said. The fire inside her is more than weapon, it is will. The hunters descended, black armor, red visors, silent as ghosts. But Jackson wasn't silent. He hit the detonator. Boom! Flames erupted from the cliffs. 2 enemy drones vanished in the blast. Traps triggered everywhere, metal arms swinging, nets falling, smoke rising. Nia charged forward through the smoke, letting out a sharp cry. Her breath shot out like lightning, white, blue, and alive. A hunter raised his arm to stop her. Too late. She blasted through him, her energy fire turning armor into dust. The sky turned red not from their weapons, but from her flame. Jackson fought, beside her throwing shock discs and guiding turret fire, but then a laser blast slammed into his chest. He fell hard, gasping, his chestplate cracked, blood on his lips. Jackson, the mother roared. Nia skidded to a halt, eyes wide. She turned toward him, trembling. More hunters closed in, but she didn't run. She stood over him and changed. Her scales glowed brighter. The mechanical core in her chest pulsed, once, twice. Then, erupted. A ring of energy burst from her body, slamming into the attackers, throwing them across the battlefield like leaves in a storm. She crouched beside Jackson and chirped softly, nudging his face. He opened his eyes barely. I'm okay, he whispered. You're amazing. The mother landed beside them, wings shaking. They're retreating. Smoke filled the air. The hunter ships began pulling back, damaged, shaken, confused. They hadn't expected resistance, and they hadn't expected Nia. By nightfall, the battlefield was quiet. Jackson sat in the canyon, his arm in a sling, his ribs wrapped in cloth. The dragon mother curled protectively around her daughter. Nia rested her head in Jackson's lap, her eyes glowing softly. Every so often, a spark flickered from her nose. You fought like a star, Jackson whispered to her. She did more than fight, her mother said. She chose who she is. Jackson looked at the sky. The hunters would return, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Still, something had changed. The girl they wanted to capture was not just a hatchling. She was a new kind of dragon, born of flesh, powered by fusion, protected by a human, and willing to burn the sky if they tried again. The sun had not yet risen, but the canyon glowed. Blue fire danced gently from Nia's breath as she slept, curled around Jackson's feet like a living furnace. Her core hummed softly. The world around her had changed, but she had changed more. She was no longer prey. She was a symbol, and symbols were dangerous. The dragon mother stood on a cliff, her wings folded, her gaze far beyond the stars. "They'll come again," she said. Jackson nodded. His ribs still ached, but his hands never stopped working. Wires, circuit boards, dragon scale fragments. He was building something. They'll come with smarter machines next time, stronger weapons, faster ships. "Let them," the mother growled. Jackson looked up. "I have one idea left. One chance." He lifted a small metal band from his workbench, half tech, half living crystal. "What is it?" she asked. "A neural bridge. Built to connect minds. I built it for Nia. But if I wear it, I can share her fire. Just for a while." The mother stepped forward sharply. "That's forbidden. You could burn." Jackson smiled. Better to burn beside her than leave her alone. He approached Nia gently. She woke and blinked, sensing something. Her tail twitched. Jackson held out the band. "I need your help, little one." She sniffed it, then looked into his eyes, and nodded. The moment he placed it on his head, his world shifted. Not pain. Power. He saw everything, the wind moving, heat dancing in the air, electricity in the rocks, even the sound of his own heartbeat. Could feel her thoughts, curious, fierce, loving, scared but brave. He smiled. "You ready?" he said out loud. In his mind, her answer was clear, always. The second wave arrived just as the sun cracked the sky. Larger ships. No warnings this time. No teams. Just destruction. A beam of white-hot light slammed into the canyon wall, blasting stone into dust. Jackson stood tall, the band glowing across his forehead, his eyes lit like Nia's. He climbed onto her back. "You trust me?" he asked. She roared, and they rose. For the first time, man and dragon flew as one. Her wings beat like thunder. Her core burned hotter than ever. Jackson held tight, but his mind flew even faster, his thoughts guiding her fire, her instincts guiding his aim. They shot through the sky toward the Hunter flagship. Drones swarmed them. Jackson's left hand lit up with fire. He threw a bolt of pure plasma, destroying 2 drones in one shot. "Not bad," he muttered. Nia twisted through the air, her metal joints glowing, her energy breath cutting clean through enemy ships. On the ground, the mother dragon watched. The bond had worked. For the first time in history, a human had flown with a dragon. Not as a master, not as a pet, but as an equal. She whispered. The old songs were true. Jackson and Nia flew straight toward the enemy flagship. "They'll blast the whole canyon if we don't stop them," he said. Nia growled in agreement. He aimed at the power core on the enemy ship's hull. "Together?" she roared again. And they doved out. A rain of missiles came at them. Jackson guided her through them like wind through fire. They struck the core. Boom! The explosion lit up the sky. The flagship broke apart in flame. The remaining ships turned. They were retreating. Hours later, the sky was quiet again. Jackson pulled off the neural band, breathing heavy. Smoke covered his face, but his eyes shined. Nia landed beside her mother, proud and still glowing. Jackson climbed off and collapsed into the sand. The mother stepped close. "You should not be alive," she said. Jackson coughed. "Neither should she. But here we are." She looked at him, a deep respect in her gaze now. "You did not ride her. You shared her. That is the oldest bond. And the rarest." That night, in the rebuilt workshop, Jackson watched Nia sleep beside his tools. She had a scratch on her metal brace. Her scales were cracked in places, but her heart, Her heart burned strong. He looked up at the stars. "We did it," he whispered. And, in the back of his mind, even with the bridge turned off, he felt a reply. "We did." The sky was clear now. No more fire, no more hunter ships, only stars above the desert moon, and peace. But peace wasn't the end. For Jackson, the human mechanic who had turned scrap into miracles, and Naya, the half-dragon, half-machine hatchling, it was a new beginning. The dragon mother stood at the edge of the canyon gazing at the sky. The fire inside her was calm, her eyes soft for the first time in many seasons. She turned to Jackson. "The clans have heard what happened here. They are coming." "Friend or enemy?" he asked. "Both," she answered. "But they will not come to fight. They will come to see her." Nia stood nearby, wings twitching, glowing faintly in the rising sun. She had grown fast, not just in size but in presence. She walked with strength. Her blue heart light no longer flickered. It shone. "She is now more than hatchling," the mother said. "She is a question the old ways cannot answer." By noon, 3 dragon ships arrived, sleek, curved like bone and fire. From them stepped elders, scaled and proud, their eyes glowing with wisdom and suspicion. They approached Nia slowly, watching her with careful stares. She stood tall. Jackson stood behind her. "She breathes electricity," one elder whispered. "She should not be alive," said another. The mother growled softly. "But she is." Then came the question. Will she return with her kind or stay with the human who changed her fate? The council waited. Jackson said nothing. He looked at Naya. She looked at him, then turned to the elders. She stepped forward, stood between them and Jackson, and spoke. Not in words, but in a sound that came from her heart and mouth, a roar filled with electricity and meaning. Her core flared. The sand at her feet lifted in a swirl of wind. The message was clear. I choose both. The eldest, Dragon, bowed his head. Then we are no longer one kind or the other, he said. We are something new, and for the first time in dragon history they did not demand obedience. They offered respect. That evening, by the fire near the old scrapyard ruins, the mother sat with Jackson and watched Nia fly in loops through the sky. She will never be fully dragon, she said. She'll never be fully machine either, Jackson replied. The mother nodded, but she will be whole. He looked at her. You're leaving, aren't you? I must, she said. There are others who need to hear this story. Others who need to believe. Jackson didn't argue. He just looked at the sky. Before dawn, the dragon mother came to Nia one last time. They touched foreheads, 2 fires, one old, one new. You carry our blood, the mother whispered, but your fire is your own. Then she turned, spread her wings, and soared into the stars. And Nia watched her disappear, but she did not cry. She turned and walked back to Jackson. A week passed, then 2. The scrapyard slowly came back to life. Jackson rebuilt his workshop now, with help. Naya brought him parts from crashed ships, flying farther each day, learning the skies, mapping the world. One day she came back with another young dragon behind her, injured. Jackson looked up from his tools. Who's this? Nia chirped, eyes glowing. She had saved a life, just like Jackson saved hers, and so it began again. Now across the stars a story spreads, of a dragon hatchling with a glowing heart, of a mechanic with no soldiers, no magic, just hands that built, of a bond that rewrote what species meant, of a choice made not from fear but from love. They called it the Spark-born Pact, a tale told not in fire alone, but in flame and wire.